Your Florida home just lost 30% of its value in 6 months, and Governor DeSantis knew it would happen. Winter 2025. Restaurants sitting empty during what should be peak season. Property values cratering. Your neighborhood drowning in for sale signs. This isn't a slow economic decline. This is a calculated political decision that just wiped out $6.6 billion annual revenue and destroyed the financial future of hundreds of thousands of Floridians. And what leaked from a confidential emergency meeting reveals something politicians never wanted you to know. I'm going to show you exactly how Florida's governor triggered economic self-destruction that economists warned about months in advance, warnings that were completely ignored. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your property taxes are skyrocketing while your home value plummets, why restaurants in your neighborhood sit empty during peak season, and what Wall Street investors are planning to do with your neighborhood right now. But first, you need to see what's actually happening in coastal Florida, because what I'm about to show you is something the mainstream media refuses to report. If you live in coastal Florida, you know the rhythm. November through March, your town comes alive. Restaurants packed, stores busy, contractors booked solid. Whether you're waiting tables, working retail, doing home repairs, or running a small business, winter is when you make your money. Meet Sarah Chen, 34, restaurant manager in Fort Lauderdale. For 8 years, she counted on winter season to cover her mortgage, her kids' school expenses, and build savings. February used to be our biggest month, she told me. We'd do $120,000 in revenue. This February, we barely hit $35,000. I had to lay off 6 staff members, people I've worked with for years. Winter 2025 rental bookings crashed 31%. Flight arrivals to Florida airports down 38%. Hotel occupancy in coastal cities down by nearly half. If you work in hospitality, construction, retail, or any service industry in coastal Florida, you've already felt it. Fewer shifts, smaller tips. Customers who used to come every year simply vanished. Now, pause for a second. This wasn't a gradual decline. This was instant. According to leaked projections shown to DeSantis in January 2025, state economists predicted exactly this outcome. They warned that hostile political rhetoric and policy changes would drive away the spending that keeps coastal communities alive. The governor's response? He dismissed it. Political optics mattered more than your livelihood. But the tourism collapse is only the beginning. What happened next with Canadian visitors and foreign property owners is where this gets absolutely insane. Trade wars and hostile rhetoric out of Washington lit the match, and Florida eagerly jumped into the flames. When federal politicians started targeting Canada with 35% tariffs and talking about annexation, it wasn't just international drama. It was an attack on your wallet. Here's what most Floridians don't realize. Canadian buyers and winter visitors weren't just tourists. They owned property in your neighborhood. They spent money at your local businesses. They kept your property values high. The goal was never to achieve an economically favorable outcome for you. It was political theater designed to shore up support from a core voter base. In this distorted logic, your home losing 30% of its value was an acceptable price for political points. Politicians celebrated while you watched your biggest asset crater. And here's where the leaked emergency meeting reveals something shocking. When DeSantis was presented with data showing the exodus had already begun, 3 sources say he was told explicitly, if Florida doesn't reverse course immediately, property values in seasonal areas could drop 40 to 50% within 18 months. The response? Silence. No action. No plan. Just a calculated decision that your financial ruin was worth the political gain. Mike and Marianne Jeff owned a condo north of Fort Lauderdale for 15 years. They just sold at a massive loss and swore they'd never come back. Dale McMullen dumped his winter home. Natalie Manuso, who spent every winter in Florida since 2010, sold her property and bought in Mexico instead. This is happening on every street, in every coastal town. But wait, even with warning signs flashing everywhere, Florida's politicians didn't try to fix the problem. They made it worse. New regulations requiring foreign visitors to register with authorities, submit to background checks, even provide fingerprints, didn't just target visitors. They targeted the property owners who kept your neighborhood values high. Then came Senate Bill 264, restricting foreign ownership of real estate. The law created panic. Property owners who'd been coming to Florida for decades suddenly feared their homes could be seized. The message was clear: you're not welcome here. And when they left, they took your property value with them. Here's something that should blow your mind. While you watched your neighborhood empty out, while "for sale" signs multiplied on every block, politicians pointed to one misleading statistic. Overall tourist numbers rose slightly. They used that single data point to claim everything was fine. Meanwhile, your home lost more value in 6 months than it gained in the previous 5 years. If you live in a coastal community, you've seen it firsthand. Houses that used to sell in days now sit for months, for sale, signs everywhere. Property listings in seasonal areas have skyrocketed. Home values have dropped 30% to 40% in some neighborhoods. If you're trying to sell right now, you're competing against desperate owners slashing prices just to get out. But here's what nobody's reporting. These people aren't just leaving Florida, they're taking their money to competing destinations. Mexico simplified visa rules and is aggressively courting the exact demographic Florida just pushed away. Portugal and Spain are doing the same. Caribbean nations are running marketing campaigns with a simple message: you are welcomed here. A direct shot at Florida. And here's the part that should absolutely terrify you. Every dollar that goes to Cancun or Lisbon is a dollar that used to pay your salary, keep your local businesses open, and support your property values. That money is gone, permanently. If you work in hospitality, you've already felt it. But what's happening to contractors and small business owners is even worse. Restaurant shifts cut, tips down. Some establishments laying off staff entirely in what should be the busiest time of year. Customer traffic in coastal areas dropped 50%. Some restaurants report a 70% revenue collapse in February 2025. Carlos Martinez, 41, independent contractor specializing in pool service and home maintenance in Naples. My winter revenue used to be $85,000, enough to carry me through the slower summer months, Carlos said. This winter, I made $22,000. I'm 2 months behind on my truck payment. I might lose my business. If you're a contractor, the winter maintenance work you counted on every year is gone. Homeowners who used to hire you for repairs, landscaping, pool service, they're not coming back. Your entire winter income stream disappeared overnight. One doctor in a coastal clinic said it perfectly. There were weeks when I saw over 30 patients a day. Now it's fewer than 10. Remember, this isn't just about lost income. It's about your community dying, small businesses closing, your neighbors losing jobs, property tax revenue collapsing, which means the services you depend on, schools, police, fire departments, are all facing cuts. An analysis from the University of Central Florida projects: unemployment in coastal counties could jump from 4% to 6% within a year. If you're one of the hundreds of thousands of Floridians working in tourism-dependent industries, those aren't just statistics. That's your job, your mortgage, your family's future. Before we go further, you need to understand what Wall Street is planning right now. Subscribe so you don't miss what I'm about to reveal next, because the people preparing to profit from your financial devastation are closer than you think. Hit that subscribe button. While you're struggling to make rent and watching your home value crater, something remarkable is happening behind the scenes, and it's not good news for you. This is straight from confidential emergency meeting documents that were never meant to go public. Wall Street isn't panicking about Florida. They're preparing to buy. According to leaked strategy memos from major institutional investors, they see this collapse as a massive opportunity. Properties that Floridians bought at peak prices are now hitting markets at 30% to 40% discounts. One hedge fund document explicitly states, acquire distressed coastal properties at Depression-era prices, hold through political turbulence, position for inevitable rebound when political winds shift. But listen to this. Here's what Wall Street knows that you don't. They're betting this is temporary. They're betting that either Florida politicians will reverse these disastrous policies when they face electoral consequences, or new leadership will come in and fix it. And when that happens, the investors who bought your neighbor's house for 40% off will flip it for massive profits. Meanwhile, you're stuck. You can't sell without taking a catastrophic loss. You can't refinance because your home is underwater. And you're watching institutional investors circle your neighborhood like vultures, waiting to buy everything at rock-bottom prices. Here's something that should absolutely shock you. While you watched your property value crater, Wall Street was already analyzing exactly when to strike. Here's exactly what those leaked documents reveal. The 6 signals Wall Street is watching. Property listings peak and start declining, meaning the sell-off is complete and prices might stabilize. Alternative international buyers from Latin America and Europe start filling the void. Florida politicians facing voter anger begin walking back the policies that destroyed your property value. Coastal county governments stabilize their budgets, meaning your schools and services won't face cuts. Employment data in tourism sectors bottoms out, meaning jobs might return, developers resume building, signaling long-term confidence is back. Some signals are already flashing. Latin American buyers are quietly increasing purchases in Florida. Coastal city governments are desperately lobbying Tallahassee for policy changes. Developers aren't leaving. They're just waiting for prices to hit absolute bottom before they start building again. But here's the brutal truth. By the time these signals all turn positive, institutional investors will own half your neighborhood. They'll have bought at depressed prices while you were forced to sell at a loss or hold on and hope. The recovery will make them rich. What will it do for you? But there's one more thing you need to understand about why this happened, and it's something politicians will never admit. Every policy decision that destroyed your financial future was made with full knowledge of the consequences. State economists warned Governor DeSantis in January 2025. They showed him projections. They explained exactly what would happen. He ignored them. Why? Because the calculation was simple. Political points with a core voter base were worth more than your home equity. Hostile rhetoric about Canada. Tariffs that damaged long-standing relationships. Senate Bill 264 restricting foreign property ownership. New regulations requiring fingerprints and background checks for foreign visitors. Every single one of these policies was designed for short-term political theater, not economic outcomes. Remember that leaked emergency meeting? When advisors told DeSantis that property values could drop 40% to 50% within 18 months, his response was silence. No emergency task force, no policy reversal, no plan to mitigate the damage, just a cold political calculation that your financial devastation was an acceptable cost. While politicians in Tallahassee celebrated short-term ideological wins, it was you paying the price. Your job, your property value, your local services getting cut, your kids' schools facing budget shortfalls, your community dying. All of this was warned about well in advance, but no politician cared to listen. If this makes you angry, you're not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this investigation. Because what happens next in Florida will determine winners and losers for decades. So what does this mean for you? And what can you actually do right now to protect yourself? If you own property in coastal Florida, you're facing an impossible choice. Sell now and take a catastrophic loss, or hold on and hope the recovery comes before Wall Street owns your entire neighborhood. Here's the reality. Wall Street is betting on a political reversal. They're betting that when the next election comes, voters will punish politicians for this economic self-destruction. And they're betting that new leadership will reverse these disastrous policies, restoring Florida's reputation as a welcoming destination for international visitors and property owners. If they're right, property values will recover, but by then, institutional investors will control the market. If they're wrong, Florida's coastal economy faces a decade-long depression. Either way, you're the one who pays the price. Take a breath. This is a lot to process. But you need to understand what's really happening in Florida right now. Politicians made calculated decisions. You're living with the consequences. Wall Street is preparing to profit. The question is, what are you going to do about it? In just 6 months, Governor DeSantis staged a spectacular act of economic self-destruction, wiping out $6.6 billion in annual revenue. That's not just a number. It's your job, your property value, your local services getting cut. All of this was warned about well in advance, but no politician cared to listen. While politicians in Tallahassee celebrate short-term ideological wins, it's you paying the price. What will Wall Street's takeover of your neighborhood do for you? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe so you don't miss the next investigation. Because what happens next in Florida will determine winners and losers for decades.